best horseman? And did you have any accidents, or how did it go?
I'd obviously trained on doing horses on Merlin, but I got to this horse who, he didn't like being flanked. I always remember that. He didn't like being flanked. I really enjoyed my time while when I was doing it, but I had huge anxiety up to it.
Is there any historic character you admire and would like to play in the future?
I think I would love to have the time invested in me to be able to portray a character. So like, you know, when movie houses and producers and studios go, listen, we want you to play this part. We will give you all the support to facilitate that. So for me, it would be like playing, I'd love to try and tackle something like Kurt Cobain, say. I know it's not historical sense, but the idea that I would get to have a guitar and I would learn to play in his style that I really have a big affiliation with and the closeness to his music.
Do you ever do or say something and then you tell yourself, oh, that is such a move from my character?
Episode 1 and 2 of playing Philippe in season 1 to the end of season 3, episode 10, it felt like they'd started very much writing for me. But then the boundaries became super blurred with Philippeism or an Alexism that is now, they just became sort of the same entity. So I mean, since then I've done something and been quite, I don't know, broody or sassy and gone, oh, that's quite Philippe. But me and George and Noemi and Evan, we were all very lucky that we could, if we wanted to, go and do as much research as possible about our characters because there was books written about us.
If you would love to live in Versailles time, like in that time period or any other century?
It's a hard no from me, really. And more than, there was unbelievable decadence and regality and the parties and the opium and the sort of the fun and frivolities of basically they were having ginormous house parties, raves, really. But I'm kind of big on, like, you know, having plumbing and toilets and tea. But the size stank because they were just, the women would just sort of find a corner and take a piss. And the idea that, you know, Louis himself had mallet in his mouth because he, like, I could never be in that sort of thing at all, which would drive me mad. I mean, for me, I've said it loads of times, I feel like I need to be born in the 60s, but for me, it's like British mod culture, like The Who and a Vespa and that's pocket jackets, and that's for me, it's like quintessential.
What are the main things that got you through this time, like cooking or music or whatever?
Jigsaw puzzles. I've gone old school. I've decided to go back to basics. Jigsaw puzzles. In a weird way, for me, I've actually been this sort of month and a half of being in full lockdown. I've been my most creative. I've got my 3rd short film commissioned. I've written a feature-length film. So like, and I would never, in a weird way, because of the law of going outside and being able to socialize with friends and that being taken away, I've just gone, well, okay, that's unavailable to me. Let's do 6 hours of writing today and really that. And honestly, this last month and a half, apart from sort of doing a Trapped in the Closet with Evan and doing, you know, tweet-alongs and stuff like the social media aspect, I've actually been very creative, which is, in a weird way, I'm thankful for, because I don't think I would ever have sat down and done my feature film and written it had it not been for this. So in a weird way, I've actually benefited from it.
If you had the opportunity to play a female character from the series, who would it be and why?
Yeah, wow. Whoa. Which female character in Versailles gets the best deal? That's for me. That's how I'm working this out. Which one doesn't die a horrible death or through like a severe pregnancy or a miscarriage? I'm trying to, or doesn't have like their whole, like Palatine, I was about to say like Princess Palatine, but a whole family, while she's in Versailles, gets completely murdered by Louis XIV. Like, she gets like a terrible deal. Like, I'm trying to think, Sophie runs away, Claudine died. Yeah. I'm just trying to think about, like, who survives at the end, you know? Who's still kicking? If there was a season 4 and I had to come back as a female, like who's still got, you know, the corset around. I mean, I'm going to go for Elisa, Marie-Thérèse. She's sort of like a sleeper cat. Season 1, season 2 gets a little bit more, but her sort of mini arc in 1 to 5 or 1 to 6 or whatever those episodes in season 3, I mean, she blew. We knew that Elisa was phenomenal, but I really quite liked Henriette's arc in season 1. I thought it was really complete. She really had a sort of progression into a woman.
Were you able to contribute with personal suggestions on the writing or filming of your characters? And if so, to what extent?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's quite well known that me and Evan completely wrote our farewell scene in season 3. Because what was delivered for me and Evan personally was not what we thought we'd earned. It didn't feel like at that point that we were not entitled to be selfish. We knew that we weren't coming back for a season 4. So I felt like, for me and him in the car in the morning, we were like, we're not doing this. This is not the end of the Monchevy arc that we feel like these characters deserve. But that went from, I wouldn't say season 1 per se, but I think season 2 and season 3, for me, if I contributed to an idea and I validated it enough to say, this should happen because I feel strongly about it, it ended up being in the show. One of the point of examples was that originally it was going to be Louis on his own throwing the mask into the water at the very end of on the cliff. My story, mine and Fabienne's, and also now Louis'. That's my arc. The Man in the Iron Mask is my arc. I said, you need Philippe on that cliff top at the very end. You need him. Like, you can't just give it to Louis. And so sometimes if you worded it correctly and you had a good backup of why, the writers for me were usually quite amiable and said, yeah, okay, we'll go back to that. And also you could do sort of quick changes on the day. The idea of the Paris element and showing these people living decadent lives and how the poverty-stricken France was, and that balance was never fully realized it. And we spent too long there because actually by that point, if any new audience member is watching Versailles at season 3, means they're invested in the characters they met in season 1, which 10 people who have So the idea that you bring in 6 or 7 regular actors, bless them, to try and make you care about them, it's hard. It's hard and it's thankless because I can't remember any of their character names. It seems like a redundant point to it. I get the idea, just the realization of it was never really clever enough. But I know we both have different opinions about season 3 just because of personal character development and stuff like that. But I personally had my personal happiness on terms of the whole season was all of season 3. Having that, for me, I got to get out of Versailles. For me, it was studio, and the repetitiveness of just having a whole week with just me and Ev. As much as I love him, it was just we did 3-4 episodes like over like a week period, and I just was like, why can't I get out? Like, he gets out all the time. Like, let me get on a horse. And so season 3 for me was like, they allowed and they trusted the character to be free. It felt like a massive learning curve for me. And just the nature of long form drama and big budget and spectacle. And actually, for us actors, we crave detail and specificity. You having Minos's name in a script would mean so much that they're about you, and the same with me. It felt like all those crane shots of those parties that we spent hours doing, 2 setups doing the scene. It drove me mad that the show cared more about that good old wide shot